So welcome to some games that I think rock. And this is kind of unbelievable because it's the beginning of 2023 and already I played 3 games that I've written down on my Games of the Year list already as contenders. I can't believe it. What a way to start the year, and some really great games to talk about. I will ask you guys, what are some games that you're playing that you think rock right now? And they may be older games, they may be the latest games that I've been playing recently. Let me know down below. So the first game I'm going to talk about is very important to me. It really is, because it kind of warms my heart to think back 15 years ago I was talking about this game. And that game is Dead Space, the remake. I've played the PS5 version here. What do you guys think about this game? I've got to go back for a second. 15 years ago, I picked up Dead Space, and it's when I first started the channel. And here's something completely crazy. I reviewed the game 15 years ago, and at that time, I finished the game, and back then, capture software wasn't what it is now. I filmed my television screen to show the gameplay, to show me. I think it was one of the very first reviews I'd ever done. I did a few back then, and it was really hard for me to get in front of the camera and do that, but I wanted to talk about Dead Space. And the interesting thing about back then is, I put my review up, and there was one other review up on YouTube. That is it. There was 2 reviews up when I put mine up. There was IGN's and mine, and that was it. And then I think about 5 months later, I got hit by copyright for using the Alien 1 music on it and some visuals from Alien. I want to show a comparison about how the games are kind of similar to the movie, and how it all kind of correlates and stuff like that with the music and stuff like that. And it got copyrighted, and that got taken away over time, thankfully. So the game Dead Space was important to me 15 years ago, and it's very important to me now. Now, here's an interesting thing. Did they realistically need to remake Dead Space again? They're doing this all the time. They just did this with The Last of Us. I mean, I think it's the 3rd time they've remastered and kind of remade bits of that game to re-release it. Did Dead Space need it? Yes. I played the original Dead Space a couple nights ago, just to remember what it was all about back then, and I'm like, oh, I love this game. But the graphics, after 15 years, do look a little bit dated. I still think they hold up quite well, but then you play the remake like I did the other night, and I was absolutely blown away with what we can do nowadays. And I've said it, with the PS5 era of consoles going on right now, that cinematics, for the very first time for me, things that I thought used to be movies, and now the gameplay. Because I'm watching Dead Space, the remake, and I'm like, yeah, we're telling the story. Then all of a sudden, it happened to me like Ratchet and Clank. All of a sudden, I'm watching the cinema, and I'm like, oh, I can move the character. And I'm like, what a time, man. We've hit that time where the gameplay has matched cinematics, at least. And that is something else. And walking around, re-entering the world of Dead Space, reminded me every single reason why I loved it 15 years ago. It's everything that I enjoy. I love things like Alien, Event Horizon, The Thing, and this gives me all of that, and then some more. Terrifying at times, so scary. I remember when I was first going out with Kim, I was playing Dead Space 2 at this point, and I remember I went around a corner, I had my headphones on, and Kim came in because I was playing it in this room. I don't think I've ever yelled so loud because I didn't expect her to come in, and I was right in the middle of a tense moment. That's what Dead Space gives you. It gives you those tense moments in the darkness, and you're always on the edge of your seat. You're going around with your lights, and you're like, what's around the corner? And then something terrifying happens. And let me say, the remake scares me even more. I don't know if it's the sound, the visuals. It just sucks me in, and I absolutely love the world of Dead Space. I can say that. I love the world of Dead Space. As I said earlier, it warms my heart. It does. The carnage, the insanity, the isolation, all of that is captured perfectly. And if you've never played Dead Space, oh my God, go and play the remake and get ready for an incredible, terrifying journey into the unknown. That's all I'll say. Definitely get involved in the game, play it. The one thing that I will say, I'm playing the game and I'm like, oh, it looks good, but it's a bit unusual at times. There's a grain filter on, and I don't remember if that was in the original. Maybe it was. And so I'm going in the settings and I'm like, oh, I can take the grain filter off, and it looks so much better. To me personally, maybe some people like the grain filter. I personally did not. Turned off the grain filter, and everything seemed to get a lot better for me. I also played in performance mode, and that really suited me a lot better. I like the higher frame rate. I think it plays just a lot smoother. I turned that off. It's a bit chunky moving. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting kind of spoiled by 60 frames a second. I've always said I'm not a frame rate in any way. I'm starting to become one. I'm really liking the 60 FPS. It feels really, really nice, but can't say enough great things about Dead Space, the remake. What a way to start the year, and a remake worthy of getting made. This deserves it. The original game was excellent. This new game is excellent. They both work in their selective time frames, and loving this in 2023. Now, the next game came out of nowhere, and I think it did for every single person out there. I'm just kind of like surfing around online. I'm on Twitter or something like that, and all of a sudden there's a trailer for a new game by Bethesda called Hi-Fi Rush, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is. I'll just check it out. It's like one of those games that just came out. And so I'm like, it can't be that good. It can't be that good because it just, they just announced it. There's no build up towards it. Not like, months ago and said, hey, look out, this game's coming out. Just was there. And so I looked at it and I'm like, wow, it kind of gives me that, Jet Grind Radio feeling from the Dreamcast era, a bit of Sunset Overdrive. It's giving me that feeling in its aesthetics of the cartoon anime style of shading. And I start to watch the trailer and I'm like, oh, this looks really good. This looks really good. I'm like, well, do I have to buy this game? I don't know much about it. I have no hype for it at all. And then I went on to Game Pass, and it was there for me personally because I do Game Pass. So I'm like, it's there, download it. And then all of a sudden on Twitter, people are writing to me all over the place. My latest videos, all that. You got to play Hi-Fi Rush. You got to play Hi-Fi Rush. And I'm like, I'm there, I'm doing it. It's always funny when a lot of you guys write to me. I'm usually on the just of doing it. And so I kind of find it funny. I'm like, yes, I'm getting on it for sure. I'm getting on it for sure. And so I installed it, and I didn't really know what to expect. I'm like, I do like the look of it. Went in, and I played it, and I want to say something. Yes, it's a cell shading going on there, but it's also got a really kind of neat 90s cartoon vibe, an American cartoon vibe, but animated in like Korea or Japan or something like that. It has that kind of look to it, and I really, really appreciated that. A lot of nostalgia for the past. It gave me that feeling from the 90s. So I'm like, I love the graphics. I'm really liking that. And then I started playing the game, and I'm like, what is this? And it's kind of an action platforming rhythm game, with action combat. And I'm like, so you fight to the rhythm at times. And I'm like, oh, and some friends were warning me saying, I don't think you'll like this. I don't think you're going to like the combat. You know what? I had a pretty good time. I really did. And I'm running around the world and I'm like, look at this game. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? And I checked out the Metacritic score and I'm like, oh my gosh, like people are really liking it. And I gotta say that I'm really, really liking it. I want to go back to this game and spend a lot more time with it. But right now, it's really giving me everything that I kind of enjoy from the Dreamcast era with Jet Grind Radio and a cool anime cartoon aesthetic from the 90s. I think it's really something else. Great, smooth animation. It really looks nice. So the game that came out of nowhere that absolutely delivered. Are you guys playing Hi-Fi Rush? Let me know if you are. What do you think about this game? I've been really shocked by it. A game that was out of nowhere announced. We started playing it. It's bloody good. So on to the last game that I'm going to talk about here. And I was talking about it with Kim in my last episode, Games We're Playing. A little game, a small game from Nintendo called Fire Emblem Engage. And let me say, I have been engaged. Big time. I can't believe how addicted to this game I got. I start to play it and I'm like, okay, this is fun. maybe I'll play the first 2 chapters, and then all of a sudden, you know how it happens. Well, let's do one more chapter. And before I knew it, right now, as I'm talking, I think I have finished the game. So I'm on chapter 20 right now, and I'm planning to absolutely over the weekend go through it and finish this game. It's 26 chapters, right? So what can I say about it? What's going on? It's so addicting. And I'm going to get some of the basics out of the way. I really like, and yes, it's like that in every Fire Emblem game, but I want to say about this game in particular, I really like all of the character designs. Not just the mains, all of them. I think there's just something, I know it's a stereotype to say. I know. And I played anime style games for so many years, but I really like the anime look of the characters. And I really, really do. I really also love the attack animations in this game. They're absolutely beautiful, and it's so fun. You move your character over there, and obviously you're gonna do your attack, and then you see your attack, and it makes you so proud when you kill the enemy. You're like, yes! There's a certain level of satisfaction with Fire Emblem that I don't get in any other game, and I think it's just strategy games in general. I started from back in the day playing Military Madness, I went to Warsong Langrisser, then I went to Advance Wars, and then I got into the Fire Emblem series. And there's just something very satisfying about getting your troops, moving them all over the map, leveling them up, and keeping them, stocked up with weapons and healing items and all that. But when they get to a certain level, changing their class. This is where the game elevates for me. And it goes back to Path of Radiance, which is still my favorite Fire Emblem game. When you level up your class, you take your character who kind of looked okay, and they were they're a good friend of yours in the game, doing their healing or whatever they're doing. And then you level them up with their class, and you see a brand new look to them. They have better armor, better weapons, and they're just all their stats go up, and you just feel like so powerful. You feel powerful for your characters, and you really start to get engaged with these characters, no pun intended. And I feel really attached to all of my troops, all of them in Fire Emblem. And I love going to combat. I love sending them out there, leveling them up, changing their class. And there's so much you can do in this game. I mean, so much you can do. I'm not even going to get into it all because I'd be here for an hour of all the things that you can do. Talking to different comrades in your small hub world, leveling up your main character within there as well, upgrading all of your equipment all of the time. There's so much to do in Fire Emblem. It's ridiculous. And I'm having a great amount of fun playing it, and I can't get away from it. I've been surprised how much I put into Fire Emblem in a few days' time as well. I mean, just on a night, I sit there and I play from 7 at night, so sometimes 3 in the morning. And I just go. But I must admit, getting to level 20 that I'm at right now, the 20th chapter, it's getting a little challenging, and I don't like losing anybody in combat. I don't like losing anybody in combat. I get really angry if I do. I was like, the other night I'm sitting with my controller, I'm like, oh, especially what I find with Fire Emblem, as I say, I really enjoy the game. But sometimes I'm feeling near the end of the game, they're really trying to up the difficulty, not by creating good strategy, but just by creating so many more enemies against you. So you go into a map, you have all your enemies there, and you kill most of the enemies, and then you start engaging the boss character. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, another 8 bad guys comes onto the screen, and I'm like, what the heck? Especially when I've been fighting really hard with my guys, and I'm taking down the boss character, and he or she feels artificially inflated health-wise. So he's got 3 bars of health. So if you take one down, they get it back again. Take it out, back again. Take it out, back again. And I got really, really frustrated with that. That's the one thing I'm like, they're artificially creating, difficulty here by just giving the extra health stuff going on there. But I can't fault that. I understand they get to the end of the game and they're trying to up the difficulty, and it gets a bit more challenging, and I do appreciate that, because I do say this, the game's not too bad. It's not too difficult. I think anybody can get through probably the first 20 chapters, no problem. But then again, I think you do have to play strategy games. I have played all the Fire Emblem, so I feel quite at home with it. But I think it's a good place to jump in. If you've never played a Fire Emblem game, know this. all of them are different in that the characters and the stories. A lot of the combat and the way it's handled is the same, obviously. You know, changing classes is the same. But they're all different. You can jump in at any different kind of one. I'm gonna say it, I'm liking Engage more than I like Three Houses. And I like Three Houses. I thought it's a very different style of game. It's more of a Persona game in a lot of ways, with social links and stuff like that going on. Even though you have that in this game to a smaller degree, in this game it's more storyline and then combat. And the storyline's okay. The storyline's alright. I'm not super engaged in it. It's just like every place is taking me to the next place. And that's all I want. So I'm happy in that regard. So Fire Emblem, man. Fire Emblem, starting off the year, I kind of thought it was going to be a bit of a novelty game because you have past Fire Emblem characters coming in, and I thought, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. They're like ghost characters that come in. I'm like, is this going to be something that I can take seriously, or is this kind of like a side Fire Emblem game? No, it's a full-on Fire Emblem game, and you just combine with some of the past characters, and it's very nostalgic seeing them from all of the past Fire Emblem games. You'll know all of them if you played the games. You know, like Marth's there, Roy's there, not just from Smash Brothers. I'm talking, that's where they were first shown in North America, but from all the other Fire Emblem games, that's where they're originally from. It's nice to see them make a return in the game. I kind of like it. It's kind of grown on me, and I like the novelty of it. It is the novelty of the game, and it works. So, anyways, my gosh, I've been talking for a while, because you know what? I love talking about video games, and I'm so happy that you guys watch and interact with me, and we have a good time. We can talk about video games together, especially in the comment section. So let me know what you guys are playing. I do go down there, and I read every single comment. I really do. So anyways, guys, until next time.